When the message first reached Earth, no one could believe it was real. A strange pattern of signals had been picked up by the Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting Jupiter. At first, scientists thought it was just cosmic noise or maybe a natural phenomenon. But as they decoded the pattern, something extraordinary became clear. It was a communication beacon, and it was not human. The signal was coming from far beyond the solar system, repeating a message in a structure too deliberate to be random. Humanity had dreamed of finding alien life for centuries, but no one expected it to happen this way. The governments of Earth came together in shock and excitement. For the first time in history, all major nations agreed on one thing: they had to answer. A joint task force was formed and a message was sent back, simple and cautious. "We are from Earth. We wish to communicate." Weeks passed without a response, and many began to believe the event was a misunderstanding. But then, one night, space telescopes captured something impossible. A massive object appeared at the edge of the solar system, shimmering with energy, moving in ways no human ship ever could. Humanity realized that they were no longer alone, and that someone was coming. The ship that arrived wasn't an invasion force, but it wasn't friendly either. It was a messenger, a representative of what called itself the Galactic Council, an organization of thousands of alien civilizations working together for peace, trade, and order. The humans who saw it were filled with both awe and fear. The Council envoy explained through translation devices that Earth had been observed for centuries. They knew about wars, pollution, and human aggression. The Council described Earth as a young, unstable world, not yet ready for full membership among the stars. They invited humanity to join as observers, meaning they could attend meetings but had no voice or vote. It was an invitation wrapped in arrogance, and though Earth accepted it, many humans felt insulted. The first human delegation to the Galactic Council was led by Dr. Maya Richer, a linguist and diplomat known for her calm manner. She and her team traveled aboard the alien ship to the central world of the Council, a colossal station orbiting a blue giant star. When they arrived, they saw species of all shapes and sizes, beings made of light, scaled creatures with wings, mechanical life forms whose minds ran on quantum energy. Humanity was the smallest and weakest-looking race there. The council chamber itself was breathtaking, a floating sphere of light where delegates communicated through sound, scent, and telepathy. Maya felt like a child walking among gods. At first, everything seemed peaceful. The council welcomed Earth's representatives politely. They shared knowledge about galactic law, star travel, and ethics. But the more the humans listened, the clearer it became that the council did not see them as equals. Humans were not allowed to vote, trade freely, or explore beyond their system without approval. Every request they made was delayed or ignored. When Maya spoke about Earth's technology and achievements, some delegates laughed softly in their own languages. One alien leader, a tall crystalline being named Varan, told her, "Your kind is still learning to crawl. Be thankful we are watching over you." Months passed. Then one of Earth's deep space mining companies reported something strange. Their stations on the outer rim of the solar system were being interfered with. Machines were vanishing. Resources were being taken. When the company's drones followed the trail, they discovered ships that did not belong to any human nation. They bore the insignia of a council member race known as the Thorax, a species famous for their mining expertise. The humans immediately filed a complaint with the council, demanding an investigation. The response came 2 weeks later. The council ruled that there was insufficient evidence and advised Earth to avoid making unfounded accusations. Maya was furious. She confronted the council chair directly, saying, "You promised equality. You promised protection. Our people are being robbed under your flag." The chair, an ancient being older than most stars, simply replied, "Young worlds often misunderstand the ways of progress." The meeting ended with laughter from some alien delegates echoing through the hall. Maya returned to her quarters that night, staring out at the alien stars, feeling helpless and betrayed. Meanwhile, back on Earth, evidence continued to pile up. Satellite feeds showed thorax mining ships entering human territory, drilling into asteroids and even moons, extracting rare elements like iridium and tritium. The people of Earth were outraged. News networks called it the silent theft. Protests broke out around the world. Many demanded that humanity cut ties with the Council altogether. But Earth's leaders hesitated. They knew that defying the Council could mean war against dozens of civilizations far more advanced than their own. Maya sent a private message to Admiral Elena Vargas, head of the United Earth Defense Fleet. She wrote, "They think we are weak, but if they keep taking from us, they will see what humans can do." Elena never replied in words, but she began quiet preparations, secret projects long thought abandoned. Hidden deep beneath the oceans and inside lunar bases, human engineers started working on weapons that were designed not for defense, but for survival. Despite the tension, Earth continued to send delegates to the Council meetings. Maya tried to remain diplomatic, though the condescending tone of the alien representatives made it harder each day. One session changed everything. The Council announced a new resource-sharing program that would allow advanced species to assist developing worlds in managing their space territories. When Maya read the details, her heart sank. It was legalized exploitation. It gave member species the right to extract resources from unstable systems like Earth's, under the excuse of helping them manage growth. Maya stood up and objected, shouting, "This is theft disguised as generosity." Her voice echoed through the vast chamber. The council chair silenced her with a single word: order. The motion passed. Earth had been outvoted. Mining ships were authorized to continue operations near human colonies. That day, something inside Maya broke. She realized that the Council had never wanted peace. They wanted control. Humanity had been brought in not as partners but as subjects. The so-called Galactic Law was only a mask for the powerful to keep others weak. When she returned to Earth, she stood before the Global Assembly and told them everything. "They do not see us as equals," she said. "They see us as resources. They smile in our faces while their fleets strip our home bare. We must decide now. Will we bow or will we stand?" Her speech went viral across every network on Earth. People listened. People remembered. And deep within every human heart, a spark of anger began to burn. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians all began to think differently about the stars. The galaxy was no longer a dream of wonder. It was a place of predators, and humanity had just been marked as prey. Behind closed doors, military alliances were being formed. Old enemies became partners. The world's brightest minds gathered in secret labs to design weapons that could challenge even the mightiest alien fleets. The Council, far away, had no idea what they had awakened. They still believed humanity to be naive, a primitive race clinging to a small blue world. But Earth was changing. The fear was turning into determination. And while the Council continued its meetings, laughing at the emotional humans, a message was quietly being written deep beneath the Atlantic in the heart of Earth's Defense Command. It said only one thing: we will remember. That was how it began. Not with war, not with violence, but with betrayal and silence. Humanity had reached the stars seeking friendship, and instead found arrogance. The first contact that could have united the galaxy instead sowed the seeds of its greatest conflict. The Council didn't know it yet, but the quiet anger of Earth was growing stronger with every stolen resource and every dismissed complaint. And when that anger finally erupted, the galaxy would never forget the name of the small blue planet that dared to fight back. It began with a flash so bright that it blinded every telescope on Mars for several seconds. At first, scientists thought it was a meteor strike near Phobos, the small moon orbiting Mars. But when the light cleared and communication links went dead, the truth slowly came out. The colony on Phobos was gone. 20,000 men, women, and children, scientists, engineers, and families, had vanished in an instant. What had once been a thriving human settlement was now a floating graveyard of dust and broken metal. The world stood still as news reached Earth. People gathered around screens waiting for answers that never came. Within hours, the United Earth Command sent rescue ships to search for survivors. When they arrived, the scene was horrifying. The entire colony dome had been vaporized, and the rock beneath it had melted into glass. Only scattered fragments remained, bits of machinery, fragments of oxygen tanks, and the blackened remains of human lives. No warning had been given, no alarms had sounded. Whatever had happened, it had been instant and merciless. For days, Earth demanded answers from the Galactic Council. Messages were sent, transmissions repeated again and again. We request an immediate investigation. This is an act of war. But the Council's response came only after a full week. A calm, detached message from the chair. Our scans confirm an unfortunate incident involving a weapons malfunction during a routine patrol near your moon Phobos. The Council extends its condolences. The message ended there, as if 20,000 human lives were just a number in a report. The statement enraged humanity. The explanation made no sense. Why was a Council fleet patrolling human territory at all? Why was a routine patrol using weapons near a civilian colony? Admiral Elena Vargas, who led Earth's defense fleet, called an emergency meeting. Her voice was steady but filled with cold anger. They call it a malfunction, she said. But our sensors picked up energy signatures. Those were no accidents. That was an attack. Maya Richter, who had once believed in peace and cooperation, stood beside her. She looked exhausted, her hope shattered. They killed our people, Elena, she whispered. And they'll never admit it. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant. The Council wasn't going to help. There would be no justice, no apology. Only silence. On Earth, grief turned into fury. Protests erupted in every city. People carried pictures of the lost colonists chanting, "Justice for Phobos." The governments tried to calm the situation, but the people were done waiting. News networks played the same clip again and again. A mother crying as she watched the wreckage of her daughter's home on Phobos drift across the stars. The world that had once dreamed of unity now demanded revenge. The Council's official investigation team arrived 2 weeks later. They inspected the site and then left after a few hours, refusing to share their findings. A brief statement was released. Case closed. Technical malfunction confirmed. That single sentence broke whatever thin thread of trust remained. Humanity realized that they were truly alone in the galaxy. Admiral Vargas gathered her senior officers in a secure underground chamber beneath the Atlantic. Around a long steel table sat representatives from every major nation, soldiers, scientists, and strategists.
She stood at the head of the table and said only one thing. We've been treated like children for too long.
No more. Her tone was sharp and her eyes burned with the weight of loss. The room agreed. Within days, Earth began to move. Satellites were repositioned, defense platforms reactivated, and old military projects, long hidden under the guise of research, were brought back online. The Global Unity Treaty was amended in record time, giving the United Earth Command complete authority to prepare for conflict if needed. Humanity had never been more united. For the first time in history, every nation on Earth spoke with one voice. The first step was intelligence. The Council thought humans were blind to their movements, but Earth's deep space scanners had improved. Hidden listening stations picked up encrypted alien transmissions that hinted at something far more sinister. The malfunctioning fleet that destroyed Phobos had been sent by the Tharax, the same mining race that had been stealing resources from human space. It wasn't a mistake. It was an attempt to intimidate Earth, to remind them of their place. The discovery made everything clear. Humanity had not been attacked by accident. They had been punished for daring to protest. When the truth reached Admiral Vargas, she didn't shout or curse. She simply closed the report and said quietly, "Then they've chosen this war." She began planning Earth's response. Secret orders were sent across the planet. Massive underground factories started working day and night, producing new types of ships, fast, silent, and heavily armed. Engineers tested railguns that could pierce through shields and missiles that could chase targets through warp space. Humanity was building not just for defense, but for vengeance. Meanwhile, Maya Richter returned to the Galactic Council as Earth's ambassador. Her task was to confront them one last time. When she entered the Grand Chamber, every alien delegate turned to watch her. She walked straight to the center platform, her hands trembling slightly but her voice strong. "You called it a malfunction," she said. But we know it wasn't. You killed our people and you laughed behind your walls. We demanded justice and you gave us excuses. The hall was silent. Only the faint hum of the chamber could be heard. Finally, the council chair, glowing like a pillar of light, responded, "Humanity is emotional and unstable. You must learn patience. Anger will not serve you among the stars." Maya clenched her fists. "Then maybe," she said, "it's time the stars learned to fear us." Gasps filled the hall. The chair tried to continue, but Maya was already walking out. Her translation device dropped to the floor and shattered as she left the chamber. That was the last time a human ever stood in the Galactic Council. Back on Earth, her words spread like wildfire. Every news outlet replayed the moment she said, "It's time the stars learned to fear us." It became a slogan painted on ships, carved into walls, whispered among soldiers. The world had been humiliated, and now it was preparing to show its strength. Over the next year, the skies around Earth filled with new kinds of ships, sleek, black, and deadly. The Stellar Defense Network expanded to every moon and asteroid. Mars became a military hub. The wreck of Phobos was turned into a memorial fortress, a silent reminder of what had been lost. And beneath the surface of Earth, hidden in deep vaults, the most secret weapon of all was being completed. A ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was called Nemesis. The Council, watching from afar, dismissed these preparations. "Humans are loud but weak," said one delegate. "They will shout and then obey." They had no idea that Earth was not just shouting, it was sharpening its sword. Admiral Vargas stood in the command center one night, looking at the holographic image of the destroyed colony. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. "We didn't want this," she said softly to Maya, who stood beside her. "We wanted peace," Maya nodded. "They left us no choice." Vargas turned toward the stars, her eyes reflecting the red light of Mars. "Then we'll give them silence," she said. In the months that followed, humanity tested its new ships in secret. They moved through the dark between planets, silent and unseen. Scouts brought back intelligence on alien fleets, their formations, their weaknesses. Every test, every drill brought Earth closer to readiness. The plan was clear. When the time came, there would be no warnings, no negotiations, and no mercy. The Council continued to ignore humanity's protests. To them, Earth was still a small world on the edge of the galaxy. They didn't see the change happening beneath the blue skies. The factories glowing through the night, the soldiers training on lunar bases, the families whispering stories of revenge to their children. Humanity was no longer a dreamer's race. It was becoming something else, something stronger, harder, and infinitely more dangerous. Then one day a message was sent from Earth to the Council. It was short, just 5 words. "You struck first. We remember." No one on the Council took it seriously, but those who did feel a chill down their spines. Something about the tone, cold, direct, final, felt different. It wasn't a plea. It was a warning. The people of Earth had grieved long enough. Their sorrow had turned into purpose. They were no longer waiting for justice from others. They were ready to take it themselves. And as the first new warship lifted off from Earth's surface, slicing through the clouds like a silver blade, every person watching knew that the galaxy would soon learn what humanity truly was. It began with loss. It grew with silence. And it was about to end with fire. No one in the galaxy believed that humans could fight back. The Galactic Council had seen thousands of young civilizations before, and most of them bent their knees when faced with the Council's fleets. They thought Earth would do the same, cry for help, beg for peace, and surrender. But this time things were different. The people of Earth were done being silent. They had lost 20,000 innocent lives on Phobos, and no apology, no lie could erase that pain. They had been treated as weak, but now the Council would learn how wrong they were. It started quietly. Earth didn't announce its plans, didn't threaten anyone. While the Council continued to debate politics and trade, humans were working day and night in the shadows. Hidden beneath oceans, inside asteroids, and under the red sands of Mars, entire cities were turned into factories. Every nation, every scientist, and every soldier worked with one purpose: to defend Earth and make the Council pay for what they had done. The first new warship that came out of the Atlantic shipyards was called Nemesis. It was massive, built with thick armor and armed with weapons that no alien design could understand. Instead of using energy beams like the Council, Nemesis carried kinetic railguns, huge cannons that could launch metal projectiles faster than light. One shot could punch through a cruiser's shields and tear it apart from the inside. The aliens relied on elegance and tradition. Humans relied on pure, brutal efficiency. Soon, Earth's entire fleet was ready. Hundreds of ships, some large as cities, others small and fast like hunters, were waiting in the dark near Jupiter. Admiral Elena Vargas stood in the command center aboard Nemesis, watching the holographic map of the solar system. "The Council believes we will beg," she said to her officers. "Let's show them how humans beg with fire." The first target was chosen carefully. A Thorax mining station sat just beyond Pluto, guarded by 3 Council patrol ships. It was the same species responsible for stealing from human territory and for the destruction of Phobos. The order was simple: no communication, no warning. The Nemesis jumped out of warp space silently, unseen on alien scanners. Within seconds, its railguns opened fire. The projectiles hit with such force that the patrol ships didn't even have time to raise their shields. They exploded like fireworks, scattering debris into the void. The mining station tried to surrender, but Nemesis fired one last shot. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but dust and silence. The message was clear. Earth had struck back. When news reached the Galactic Council, panic spread through the chamber. "The humans have attacked," shouted one delegate. "They've destroyed a council facility." The council chair tried to calm them, saying, "Their small fleet cannot last. We will remind them of their place." Within hours, a fleet of 100 alien warships was sent to Earth's border. They called it the Punishment Armada. But they had no idea what was waiting for them. The humans had studied the Council's tactics for years. They knew how the aliens fought: slow, predictable, relying on shields and energy weapons. Admiral Vargas planned something the Council could never imagine. She divided her fleet into smaller groups, hiding them inside asteroid fields and behind moons. When the alien armada arrived, the space around them seemed empty. They advanced confidently, broadcasting warnings: "Earth, surrender your ships and submit to the Council's authority, or face destruction." Then the trap was sprung. Dozens of human ships decloaked at once, firing railgun rounds and EMP missiles. The first wave of projectiles tore through the alien fleet's shields like paper. Their ships, built for long-range battles, couldn't handle the close-quarters chaos that humans preferred. Explosions bloomed across the blackness of space. Alien captains screamed for reinforcements, but communications were jammed. AI-controlled drones swarmed their engines, detonating themselves inside weak points. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. Admiral Vargas watched silently from the command deck as the alien fleet broke apart. Her officers cheered, but she raised a hand. "Do not cheer for death," she said. "Cheer for justice." The humans didn't take prisoners. Within 2 hours, the entire alien armada was gone. The debris drifted silently, a graveyard of ships. When the Council heard what happened, disbelief turned into fear. For centuries, no one had ever defeated their fleets. Even young civilizations with greater numbers had fallen easily. But the humans were different. They were unpredictable, emotional, and terrifyingly creative. The Council tried to call for peace talks, but Earth ignored the messages. They weren't finished. The next strike was even bolder. A Council communication hub on the edge of the Sirius system went offline. When a patrol arrived to investigate, they found the entire station gone, ripped apart by explosions from inside. The walls were covered in scorch marks, and the words "For Phobos" were burned into the metal. The message wasn't just revenge, it was a promise. Over the following months, the humans continued their campaign. They moved like ghosts, striking fast and vanishing before the Council could respond. Their fleets attacked supply lines, destroyed weapon depots, and even infiltrated communication networks. Council intelligence called them the Silent Storm. No one could predict where they would hit next. Some alien commanders refused to fight humans at all, claiming it was suicide. Entire species began to withdraw from the Council, unwilling to risk their ships against the Terrans. The Council tried to send spies to Earth, but none returned. The few who survived described a planet transformed. Factories burned day and night. Spaceports were filled with ships, and every human, from farmers to scientists, was part of the effort. The humans no longer saw themselves as separate nations. They were united by pain, and that unity made them unstoppable. In one battle near the Vega system, 3 human destroyers faced 12 alien cruisers. The aliens demanded surrender, saying, "You are outnumbered. Lay down your weapons." The human captain replied calmly, "We are outnumbered, yes, but we are not outmatched." The fight lasted only 8 minutes. When it was over, every alien ship was gone and the human destroyers limped away victorious. The story spread across the galaxy, inspiring awe and terror. The council held an emergency meeting. Many wanted to declare full-scale war, to send every available fleet to crush Earth once and for all, but others hesitated. "We've underestimated them," said one elder delegate. "Every time we fight, we lose more ships. They fight with rage, but also with brilliance. How do you stop an enemy who sees war as justice?" The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, Admiral Vargas was not celebrating. She looked out at the holographic map filled with red marks. Destroyed fleets, ruined worlds. "We're winning battles," she said to Maya, who stood beside her. "But at what cost? We're becoming the monsters they believed we were." Maya replied quietly, "Maybe monsters are what we need to be. For now." Vargas didn't answer. She just stared at the stars, wondering how far humanity would go for vengeance. As months turned into years, the galaxy began to change. The Council's power started to crumble. Member races began to question their leaders, asking why they had provoked the humans in the first place. Trade routes collapsed and fear spread across star systems. Children of distant worlds whispered human stories as bedtime warnings. "Don't anger the Terrans," they said, "or they will come in the night." But Earth wasn't trying to conquer. Once the retaliation was complete, the humans pulled back. They didn't occupy worlds or demand tribute. They simply destroyed the fleets that had wronged them and left. Their message was clear: "We don't want your empire. We just want respect." Still, the damage was done. The Galactic Council's fleets were shattered, their pride broken. For the first time in its long history, the mighty council was silent. No one dared to speak against humanity anymore. Every alien leader knew the truth. If Earth could do this as a young, developing race, what would happen when they grew stronger? In the command room of Nemesis, Admiral Vargas received the final report. The Council's central defense network was gone, and the Thorax species had surrendered. The war was over. She closed her eyes and said softly, "We asked for peace. They gave us war. We gave them silence." The stars around her flickered peaceful once more. But beneath that peace was something deeper: fear. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Humanity was no longer the weak species at the Council's table. They had become something far greater, something the universe would forever remember. From that day on, whenever alien historians spoke of the War of Retaliation, they did not call it a battle. They called it a warning, because when Earth's fleet moved, the galaxy listened, and when the humans finally stopped, the only sound left was silence. The war ended as suddenly as it had begun. One by one, the alien fleets that had once filled the skies went dark. Their ships were destroyed, their command networks gone, and their admirals either dead or silent. The humans didn't chase the fleeing enemies. They didn't raise their flags over conquered worlds or demand tribute. They just stopped. The great engines of their warships went quiet, and the vast black of space returned to stillness. But in that silence, the galaxy trembled. When the fighting ended, the Galactic Council called for an emergency session. It was the first time in history that every surviving delegate appeared in person. The central chamber, which had once glowed with noise, movement, and arrogance, was now heavy with fear. The great pillars of light that illuminated the hall flickered weakly, as if even the station itself felt the weight of defeat. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their floating seats, whispering among themselves. Many of them looked broken, once proud leaders now humbled by the thought of what humanity had done. No one dared to sit too close to the human's empty seat at the far end of the chamber. It was a reminder of what had been lost. The nameplate still read, Earth, though no delegate had sat there in months. When the council chair arrived, the hall went completely silent. The being's form shimmered with soft golden light, once a symbol of power and wisdom. Now that light seemed dim, uncertain. "Let us begin," it said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "The war has ended. The Terrans have ceased hostilities." A low murmur spread through the hall. One of the alien generals, his body covered in cracked armor, slammed his hand on the table. "Ceased hostilities?" he shouted. "They annihilated our fleets. They destroyed our stations. Half my world lies in ruins. You call that a ceasefire? His voice trembled, not with anger, but with fear. The chair turned its glowing eyes toward him. And yet they have not invaded. They have not taken your world. They simply stopped. They do not want conquest. That only made the silence heavier. The delegates looked at one another, unsure what to say. They all knew it was true. The humans could have destroyed them all, could have burned their worlds, but they hadn't. They had only answered violence with violence, and then walked away. It was not victory that terrified the council. It was restraint. Then, without warning, the chamber lights dimmed. A holographic transmission appeared in the center of the room. The delegates gasped as the image of Admiral Elena Vargas came into view. She stood on the bridge of the warship Nemesis, her uniform torn and stained, her face calm but cold. Behind her, the shattered remains of alien ships drifted silently through space. "This is Admiral Vargas of the United Earth Fleet," she began. Her voice was steady, but there was something in it that made every creature in the room shiver. "We did not want this war. We came to your council in peace. We asked for fairness. You gave us arrogance. We asked for justice. You gave us lies. You attacked our people. You burned our colonies, and you thought we would kneel. No one dared to interrupt." Vargas continued, her eyes like stone. "We retaliated because we had no choice. We do not celebrate victory. We mourn the lives lost, ours and yours. But let this be known. If humanity is ever threatened again, if even one more drop of human blood is spilled by your hands, we will not stop next time. There will be no council, no fleets, no stars safe from us. We asked for respect, not war." The hologram ended. The image faded, leaving the room in complete darkness. No one spoke. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the station's energy core. Then slowly, the chair stood again. Its voice trembled slightly for the first time in centuries. "Let it be recorded," it said, "that Earth's representative has spoken." The silence that followed was unbearable. Some delegates refused to meet each other's eyes. Others looked down, their pride shattered. A few whispered prayers to their gods. The most powerful organization in the galaxy, an alliance that had ruled for thousands of years, had just been humbled by a single species barely a few centuries into spaceflight. Outside the chamber, the galaxy was still recovering from the shock. News of Earth's retaliation spread to every corner of known space. Worlds that had once mocked humanity now spoke their name in fear. Traders whispered about entire fleets vanishing without a trace, about planets that surrendered without a fight. Some claimed to have seen human ships moving like shadows, faster and quieter than any technology known. Whether those stories were true or not didn't matter. The myth of humanity had begun. Back on Earth, things were quiet. The people didn't celebrate. There were no fireworks, no parades, no speeches of victory. The skies were gray and the world was tired. Factories that had once built weapons began to shut down. Soldiers returned home to their families. The faces of those lost on Phobos were shown on screens all over the planet, and for the first time in years people cried, not out of anger, but out of relief that it was finally over. Admiral Vargas stood on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The waves crashed softly against the cliffs below. Maya Richter approached her, the once optimistic diplomat who had tried so hard to prevent the war. She looked older now, her eyes hollow. "It's over," she said quietly. Vargas nodded slowly. "Yes," she replied, "but the silence they gave us is louder than any battle." She looked up at the stars. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us?" Maya shook her head. "No, but maybe they'll learn to respect us." For a moment, neither spoke. The world was peaceful again, but it felt different, heavier. They both knew that Earth's name would never be forgotten among the stars. They had not just won a war, they had changed the galaxy forever. On the other side of the galaxy, in quiet alien homes, parents told their children stories about the humans. They described them as unpredictable creatures, small, fragile, but with hearts of fire. "Never provoke a Terran," they warned. "They are patient until you wound them. Then they become storms." Some worlds tried to erase the records of the war, deleting reports, hiding their shame. But others preserved them, understanding that what humanity had done was more than just vengeance, it was survival. They saw that humans fought not for domination, but for dignity. It was something many old species had long forgotten. Inside the council archives, a historian worked alone, compiling the final report of the war. He was an old being, his many eyes dim with age. As he wrote, he paused to rewatch Admiral Vargas's last words. We asked for respect, not war. He whispered to himself, well, perhaps they were right. Perhaps we forgot what respect truly means. He closed the file and marked it with a single word: warning. In the years that followed, the Galactic Council never again sent fleets near Earth. No patrols entered the Sol system. The area was marked as a red zone, restricted and untouchable. The few traders who dared to pass near it reported seeing human ships watching silently from the shadows, their guns powered but not raised. Humanity had become a mystery, both feared and admired. Within the council, things changed. Debates grew longer, quieter, more cautious. No one shouted anymore. No one interrupted. The once proud delegates now spoke in measured tones, always remembering the day the humans made the galaxy fall silent. That meeting came to be known as the Day of Human Silence. It became a legend, a moment when the galaxy realized that power was not only in weapons or technology, but in will. The humans, meanwhile, withdrew from galactic affairs. They turned inward, rebuilding their colonies, healing their wounds. They didn't trust the stars anymore. But deep within Earth's defense network, they kept their ships ready, their weapons silent but armed. Humanity had learned that peace could not survive without strength. Admiral Vargas eventually retired, living a quiet life near the sea. She never spoke publicly again, but sometimes at night she would walk outside and stare at the stars. To her, they didn't look beautiful anymore. They looked watchful, distant. Maya visited her once, years later. "Do you ever regret what we did?" she asked. Vargas smiled faintly. "Every day," she said. "But I regret Phobos more." They both looked up at the night sky. The stars twinkled softly, innocent and cold. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations still feared those lights, the same lights humans once wished upon. But Earth no longer made wishes. It made promises. And though the galaxy slowly returned to peace, that silence never truly faded. It was the kind of silence that carried memory, the silence that comes after thunder when the world waits to see if the storm will return. The Council could rebuild its fleets, reforge its alliances, and repair its pride, but it could never erase what had been done. The name Earth became a whisper of warning in the corridors of power. And whenever an arrogant voice rose in the Council, someone would always remind them, "Do not forget the Terrans." They spoke once, and the galaxy went silent. Years passed after the war. The stars that once burned with fire and destruction had grown quiet again. Space seemed calm, but beneath that calm, the memories of Earth's retaliation still haunted the galaxy. The Galactic Council tried to rebuild its influence, but things were never the same. The fear of humanity still lingered like a shadow. Every leader, every commander, every diplomat remembered the message Admiral Vargas had sent. We asked for respect, not war. Across the galaxy, planets that once laughed at humans now taught their children about the danger of pride. In alien schools, young ones were told, "Do not provoke the Terrans. They fight only when pushed too far, but when they fight, they end wars." Humanity had become a legend, both a warning and a symbol. Even the most powerful empires now moved carefully whenever they spoke of Earth. But on Earth itself, life was slowly returning to normal. The scars of war were still visible. Entire cities had been rebuilt from ashes, and families were still grieving for those who never returned. The world had changed. Humanity had grown stronger but quieter. The people who once dreamed of exploring the galaxy now looked to the stars with caution. The government established strict protocols: no contact, no outreach, no interference. The Sol system became a fortress, surrounded by invisible defense grids, automated drones, and silent watchtowers that monitored every approach. Admiral Elena Vargas had retired years ago, but her name was still spoken with both respect and sorrow. Some called her a hero. Others said she was the woman who made the galaxy bow in silence. She lived in a small house near the coast, where the waves crashed gently against the rocks. She liked the sound. It reminded her of the endless hum of space, but calmer, softer. Every morning she walked to the edge of the cliff and looked up at the stars. They still seemed distant, beautiful, and dangerous. One afternoon, a small shuttle landed near her home. From it stepped Maya Richter, her old friend, the diplomat who had tried so hard to prevent the war. She looked older, her hair silver now, her movements slow but graceful. When Vargas saw her, she smiled faintly. "It's been a long time," she said. "Too long," Maya replied, handing her a small bottle of wine. "Old Earth vintage. The good kind." They sat together on the porch as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with gold and crimson. For a while, they didn't talk about the past. They just sat in silence, listening to the waves and watching the stars appear one by one. Then Maya spoke softly. "Did you hear? The council sent a message." Vargas raised an eyebrow. "After all these years?" "Yes," Maya said. "They want peace talks. Real ones this time. No threats, no conditions." Vargas was quiet for a moment. "Do they mean it?" "I think they're afraid," Maya admitted. "But fear can be the beginning of understanding." The Admiral smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe it's just another game." Maya shook her head. "No, things have changed. You should see them now. Quiet, careful, humble. They finally understand what respect means." Vargas looked out at the darkening sky. "Then maybe it's time we stopped hiding." That night, after Maya left, Vargas couldn't sleep. She walked outside again, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there were countless worlds, some rebuilding, some still terrified. She thought about all the soldiers who had died, about the families left behind, about the silence that still hung over the galaxy. She wondered if humanity's strength had brought peace or just more fear. Far away, in the grand halls of the Galactic Council, a new generation of leaders was rising. They had not lived through the war, but they had grown up in its shadow. For them, Earth was not an enemy, it was a mystery. Many wanted to reach out to understand the species that had once silenced the galaxy, but others warned against it. "Leave them be," they said. "Peace exists because they stay quiet. Do not wake the storm." Still, curiosity grew. The galaxy had changed in strange ways. Crime rates between worlds dropped. Trade disputes were settled peacefully. Even border wars became rare. It was as if every civilization had been reminded of something ancient and simple, that power without respect leads only to ruin. The humans had not just fought a war, they had changed how the galaxy thought about power. On Earth, a new project was quietly starting. Deep beneath the mountains of Luna Base, scientists and engineers were working on something called Project Dawnlight. It was not a weapon, but a beacon, an enormous transmitter designed to send a peaceful message across the galaxy. The idea came from the younger generation, those who had grown up after the war. They wanted to reach out again, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals. Admiral Vargas was invited to witness the test of Dawnlight. She hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. When she arrived at Luna Base, the young commander saluted her with deep respect. "It's an honor, Admiral," he said. "We wouldn't be here without what you did." Vargas shook her head. "You're here because you learned from what we all did. Don't forget that." The beacon was a massive structure, hundreds of meters tall, glowing softly with blue light. When it activated, it sent out a pulse that shimmered through space, a signal made not of words but of harmony. It carried music, images, and emotions, hope, forgiveness, peace. It was humanity's way of saying we remember, but we have changed. As the signal spread, it reached distant worlds. On the Council homeworld, sensors detected the transmission. The delegates gathered, nervous and uncertain. The Council chair, now a much younger being than the one who had faced the war, listened quietly to the human signal. There were no threats, no demands, just a melody that spoke of light, oceans, and unity. For the first time in decades, the Council sent a reply. It was simple, humble, and short. "We hear you. We understand." When the message arrived on Earth, Vargas was watching from the command deck. The young technicians cheered and some cried. Maya, who stood beside her, smiled softly. "They answered," she whispered. Vargas nodded slowly. Yes, and this time they listened. For weeks, the signal exchanges continued. There were no grand treaties, no parades, no politics. Just understanding, slow, careful, fragile. The galaxy began to heal in ways it hadn't before. Ships began traveling again between systems, cautiously at first, then more freely. Trade routes reopened, old allies reconnected. The silence that once ruled the stars was fading, replaced by quiet communication and mutual respect. Still, humanity remained cautious. The defense fleet stayed alert. Earth knew the galaxy too well to ever let its guard down completely. But this time it wasn't fear that guided them, it was wisdom. They had learned that true strength wasn't in destruction but in restraint. Years later, Admiral Vargas passed away peacefully in her sleep. The world mourned her and her name became part of history. At her funeral, Maya spoke softly to the crowd. She fought not for power but for peace. And when the galaxy was silent, she made it listen. Her ashes were released into space, carried by a small ship that drifted beyond Earth's orbit. As it disappeared into the stars, people across the galaxy watched. On alien worlds, news feeds showed her image, an old human woman with calm eyes who had changed everything. And somewhere, light years away, the Council's newest members stood in silence, facing the holographic image of Earth. One of them whispered, "Perhaps we owe them our peace." Another replied, "Perhaps we owe them our future." The galaxy had been reborn, not under Earth's rule, but under Earth's lesson. Respect, strength, and mercy had found balance again. Back on Earth, children played under clear skies. The oceans sparkled, the cities thrived, and the stars once again inspired wonder instead of fear. Humanity had come full circle. They had fought, bled, and nearly destroyed everything to find the truth, that peace is not given by the powerful, it is earned by the brave. And so, in the quiet of the night when the wind carried the whisper of waves, it felt as though the galaxy itself was breathing again, calm, alive, and finally, at peace. But above all that peace, one truth remained eternal. The day Earth stood up, the galaxy learned silence. And the day Earth forgave, the galaxy learned hope.